No research without action. No action without research by Kurt Lewin. Good morning, respected dignitaries, teachers, esteemed guests, and my dear friends. Welcome to the GYRA Virtual Symposium, hosted by Rajagiri Seashore CMI School, an event that brings together bright minds to foster learning and innovation. We are thrilled to have you join us today, and we hope this event inspires new perspectives and ideas. To begin this event on a sacred note, let us invoke blessings with a prayer song by our school choir. I invite the choir to lead us in prayer.
Bless the Lord, oh my soul, I worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I worship his holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, I worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I worship his holy name. I worship his holy name.
Thank you, choir, for such a serene and beautiful opening. To formally welcome everyone to the symposium, I would now like to invite Ms. Ganga Rupesh, a student of Class 7, to deliver the welcome address.
Good morning to one and all present here. It is my honor and privilege to welcome you all to this virtual symposium hosted by Rajagiri Seashore CMI School in collaboration with the Global Young Researchers Academy, GYRA. I extend my heartfelt welcome to our distinguished chair, Dr. Manjula Devanand, and our esteemed guest speaker, Dr. Vineeth Vijayan, whose insights and expertise will inspire us today. A warm welcome to our director, principal, and GYRA officials who have continuously guided and supported us in this journey of discovery and learning. We are delighted to have with us the GYRA scholars of both Government High School, Ottapalam, the guest school, and Rajagiri Seashore CMI School, the host school. Your enthusiasm and curiosity are the driving force behind today's event. I am delighted to welcome everyone joining us via YouTube from countries around the world to be a part of this event. The symposium is a celebration of collaboration, innovation, and knowledge sharing, and I am confident that it will be an enriching experience for all of us. Once again, a warm welcome to each one of you. Let us look forward to an inspiring and memorable event ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ganga, for that warm welcome. I am honored to welcome our esteemed director, Reverend Father Verghese Mankinamparam CMI, to felicitate the symposium with his inspiring words.
Good morning and warm welcome one and all to this GYRA Symposium, Virtual Symposium to be held this morning. The respectable chairperson, Dr. Manjula Devanand, who is also the advisor to the GYRA unit of this school, respected principal of Rajagiri Seashore CMI School, Mrs. Elizabeth Matthew, distinguished guest and speaker of the day, Dr. Vineeth Vijayan, our dear parents, Dr. Felicitations, the former Global Head of this unit. Felicitators, Ms. Andrea, Ms. Helen, scholars of Government HS Odalapadam, Wayanad, and the scholars of Rajagiri Seashore CMI School, Waipin, other distinguished guests, including Reverend Father James Cernat, CMI, Assistant Director of this school, and Professor Paul Muriath of Sacred Heart College, Tevera, all the principals, teachers, parents, and my dear friends. On this auspicious occasion, I'm extremely happy to be with you this morning and share my wishes, good wishes, regards, and congratulations to all of you. In particular, I extend my appreciation to the scholars and students of government high schools, Wayanad, and to the students and the scholars of Rajagiri Seashore CMI School, Waipin. GYRA experts, advisors, and coaches are here to help us in all the way. I'm so happy to note that they are offering their services voluntarily for all this time. And we place on record a bouquet of our thanks and gratitude to all of them. My dear children, GYRA means Global Young Researchers Academy. The very word GYRA denotes a lot of things for all of us. It is global. That is very important. We are going to become global citizens tomorrow. We are not mere local citizens or a particular country. We have to think globally. And we, the students, are young here. And they have many more years to complete in their life. And they are included under the budding scientists, researchers. And it's a great blessing for all of them. And it is an academy. That means it's a particular place for special training. That is why the word GYRA comes into light. Global Young Researchers Academy. And I'm sure that GYRA promotes 21st century skills. As everybody knows, these 21st century skills are highlighted in our educational policy, national education policy. And they are nothing but critical thinking, analysis of data. They are creativity, and they are collaboration, and they are communication. So each student, each scholar should think critically and analyze all the data available to them. And they should have creativity and innovation in their life. And they have to have collaboration in the learning. The teachers as well as the students collaborate each other and learn together. And above all, they have to communicate their ideas to others. They have to exchange new ideas they get there from discovery. And this GYRA promotes in every critical thinking, think like a scientist. I think that is the basis of all this activity. The students are helped to observe the surroundings. They are asked to do some sort of experimentations, and they are helped to reach a logical conclusion. GYRA explodes paradigms in education. That is what is in the new education policy. There are certain paradigms. The first one is participatory research process, action research. That means teachers and students collaborate each other. They identify the problems, and they reach a solution. The second one is in-depth case research and studies. These are the things they have to adopt. And I'm so happy to note that once we participate in this GYRA program, we are getting a lot of benefits. First one is we are understanding how the conceptual learning is to be given more importance in our daily life. Today, the students study, or they are after rather rote learning and learning for examination. But it is not it should be the other way. They should learn for life, and life skills are to be achieved. And above all, we have to develop a scientific temper. In the Constitution of India, it is the duty of, it is written, it is the duty of every citizen to have a scientific temper and the spirit of inquiry in their life. So every student under this program should have that scientific temper. They must cultivate a rational, objective, analytic mindset, and they should think critically, evaluate evidence, and arrive at an informed decisions. For this, we know the foundation for this is to study certain subjects. We call it STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. These subjects will lay a greater foundation in their life. So to conclude, I wish all the students every success. And my dear students, please do remember that you have to think critically, you have to analyze all the data, you have to evaluate all the evidences and arrive at an informed decision. And all this will help you. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Father, for your words of wisdom and encouragement. I now call upon our principal, Mrs. Elizabeth Matthew, to share her thoughts and felicitate this gathering with her encouraging words. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Alfonso. Very respected dignitaries, Reverend Fathers, Dr. Manjula Devanand, Dr. Vineeth Vijayan, Dr. Finosh Thankam, coach and students of our guest school, coaches of Rajagiri Seashore CMI School, and my dear young researchers. Warm greetings to all present in this symposium, online and offline. I feel very honored to represent the host school Rajagiri Seashore CMI School White Pen at this virtual symposium. My heartfelt gratitude and appreciations goes to the mentors, advisors, coaches, and the organizers of GYRA for your selfless and invaluable service you extend to the student community worldwide. GYRA creates the platform to ignite young minds and brains for the limitless. The world grapples with enormous problems. Climate change, environmental hazards, and disasters are a few to mention. Let the young scholars be the innovators for the change. With scientific temper and focused mindset, be the change makers for sustainable future. I wish all young researchers good luck for meaningful research. I place on record my regards to the coach and students of our guest school, GHS Wayanad. My sincere appreciations to the director, Reverend Father Verghese Manikanambarampil CMI, our assistant director, Reverend Father James Arnath CMI, Reverend Father Paul Muriat CMI, our coaches, Miss Andrea and Miss Helen, for their efforts amidst their tight academic schedule. Once again, my wishes to all near and far. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for those inspiring words. As a gesture of respect and gratitude, we would like to present a memento to the principal of Government High School, Odapalam, Wayanad. We request Mrs. Elizabeth Matthew, principal of RSCS, to kindly do the honors.
I'm truly happy to honor our guest school, Government High School at Odapalam, Wayanad, for their incredible work. Kindly accept the certificate. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
Honor.
It's my pleasure to invite Kartik Dev 80 from class 7 to introduce our chair for today's symposium.
Good morning, all. It is an honor to welcome our esteemed chair for today's symposium, Dr. Manjula Devanand. Dr. Manjula holds a PhD in Information Science from the University of Otago, New Zealand, and has an impressive academic record, including a gold medal in her Master's in Engineering. With a career spanning both industry and academia, She currently serves as an AI research scientist and senior management team member at Fuse Machines. Beyond her professional achievements, Dr. Manjula is deeply committed to community service, actively supporting young minds through her initiative RIMGIM. Most importantly, she serves as the advisor for our units, guiding us in research methodology. We are thrilled to have her lead our symposium today. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Karthik. May I invite our chair, Dr. Manjula Devanand, to share her thoughts with us. Dr. Manjula, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Karthik, for a wonderful introduction. So on behalf of GYRA, I take this opportunity to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Team Rajagiri Seashore CMI School for hosting this GYRA Virtual Symposium. GYRA, Global Young Researchers Academy, is formed bringing together researchers, scientists, engineers, and many other education experts. Our primary mission is to inspire and guide school-going students towards becoming proficient researchers. We train school-going students to pursue research methodology adapted by renowned universities globally, and thus foster research aptitude and improve scientific temper among them. This is a long-term vision, and hence we are bound to follow an organizational setup. We expect to double the pool of global researchers in next 50 years. Through these initiatives, GYRA aims to cultivate a research-oriented mindset among a young age, empowering students to delve into scientific inquiry and contribute meaningfully to their communities and beyond. Once again, I thank Team Rajagiri Seashore CMI for taking this journey with us. I would like to remind that this virtual symposium is being streamed on the official YouTube channel, and our spectators are encouraged to post their questions in the comment section, and our technical team will relay them to the speakers. Stay tuned to the updates. Subscribe our GYRA YouTube channel for research-focused videos and events. Gentle reminder that the research presented today consists of ongoing projects. Leaving a positive note will add colors to our scholars. Listen and gain valuable insights from their work. This platform bridges the USA and India, so occasional technical glitches may occur. And if they do, please stay with us. We will reconnect in less than 5 minutes. Once again, thank you for staying with us. Let us enjoy this journey. Alfonso, thank you, and you may please continue the session.
Thank you, Dr. Manjula, for sharing your knowledge and insights with us. Next, I would like to invite Akshara Vinu of Class 8 to introduce our co-chair for today's event. Over to you.
It is my pleasure to introduce Ms. Andrea Bernard, our co-chair for today's symposium. Ms. Andrea is a dedicated physics faculty member at Rajagiri Seashore CMI School, where she brings her passion for science and teaching to inspire and engage her students. She plays a vital role in nurturing young minds and fostering a love for learning. We are honored to have her co-chair this event and look forward to her contributions throughout the symposium.
Thank you, Akshara. I now invite our co-chair, Ms. Andrea Bernard, who is our coach, to address this gathering.
Good morning to our esteemed guests, respected faculty, parents, and dear students. I am honored to join you as the co-chair for today's virtual symposium. This event is a celebration of curiosity, learning, and collaboration, and it brings together brilliant minds who are committed to nurturing the spirit of research and discovery. As a teacher at Rajagiri Seashore CMI School, I have seen how eager our students are to explore ask questions, and challenge the norms. Today's symposium provides a perfect platform for that, offering them insights and inspirations from experts across the globe. To our students, I encourage you to engage fully, absorb the knowledge shared, and let it inspire your journey. The pursuit of knowledge is a path filled with endless possibilities, and each step you take today moves you closer to making a positive impact to the world. Thank you to our speakers, guests, and everyone who made this event possible. We look forward to an enlightening experience for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Andrea. The virtual symposium is being streamed on the official YouTube channel. Participants are encouraged to post their questions in the comment section, and our technical team will relay them to the speakers. Don't forget to subscribe to the GYRA YouTube channel for research-focused videos and events. This virtual platform bridges the USA and India, so occasional technical glitches may occur. If they do, please stay with us. We will reconnect via the same link within 3 to 5 minutes. It's my pleasure to invite Marianiza from Class 8 to introduce our guest speaker.
Good morning, everyone. It is with great pleasure that I introduce our esteemed guest speaker, Dr. Vineeth Vijayan. Dr. Vineeth is an accomplished assistant professor of biomedical engineering at Alabama State University, specializing in polymeric biomaterials and plasma surface modification. With a PhD from Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute and advanced training from prestigious Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, Dr. Vineeth's academic journey and research achievements are truly inspiring. His groundbreaking work focuses on creating advanced biomaterials such as 3D printed polymer scaffolds and hydrogels for tissue engineering applications. Dr. Vineeth's research has been supported by renowned funding agencies, including the U.S. National Science Foundation, and he is a recipient of prestigious accolades such as Alexander von Humboldt Research Fellowship and Alabama State University's Faculty Research Award. Today, he will share his fascinating work with plasma, the fourth state of matter, and how it is revolutionizing the field of biomaterials. His talk titled Plasma Power: How We Use the Fourth State of Matter to Make Biomaterials Better prompts us to be both engaging and enlightening. A warm welcome to Dr. Vineeth Vijayan.
Thank you, Maria. I now invite the chair of the symposium to invite the guest speaker.
Hi, Dr. Vineeth. So the stage is yours, and we are waiting to listen to your words.
Thank you. Thank you so much, actually. Thank you for such a nice introduction. And first and foremost, I really appreciate, these efforts that, you guys are actually doing. So nurturing young talents is one of the most important thing as far as science is actually concerned. I take this opportunity to sincerely thank my friend and my senior, Dr. Finosh, for inviting me for this particular event, because this gives me a lot of pleasure to probably interact with school children actually. So I believe they are the real pillars and they are the next generation scientists in fact. So yeah, without any further delay, first and foremost, I would like to probably share some of my research journey and then some fundamentals regarding plasma, the fourth state of matter. So I would like to share my screen. Please let me know if you guys are able to see my screen.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So the title of my talk is actually Plasma Power, How We Use the Fourth State of Matter to Make Biomaterials Better. So obviously, before transitioning to plasma, I have to basically give a very brief introduction because some of our young friends may not be really aware about a biomaterial and everything. So material science is a highly interdisciplinary field where scientific disciplines such as chemistry, physics, engineering, everything comes together actually. So a biomaterial, there are a lot of classical definitions for a biomaterial, but Williams in 1807 has actually given a pretty decent definition for a biomaterial. As per that, biomaterial is any non-viable material used in a medical device intended to interact with the biological systems. So obviously, engineering biomaterials is a core focus for many decades, and including countries like India, Japan, China, US, across the global world, actually, every day, each and new biomaterials are actually engineered, in fact. So just like a small formal definition actually for the students, when does a material become biomaterial? When it is allowed to making contact with human tissue, then immediately a material becomes a biomaterial. And there's a lot of examples ranging from orthopedic implant, wound dressing materials, cardiac stents, dental brochures. So there are a wide variety of materials that are actually possible as far as biomedical applications are actually concerned. And so when you talked about the goal of using biomaterial is so broad, actually, it helps in regenerating, repairing, supporting, and replacing. So that means the engineering biomaterials is a big challenge, actually, because human body is so diverse. Each tissues are entirely different, actually. So the requirement of a biomaterial is completely different. So that is the reason why development of biomaterial is an active area where scientists or researchers are, every day they are actually trying to come up with new innovative biomaterial solutions to tackle challenges. So I would like to definitely show this particular slide because we basically Sri Chitrans actually, because I'm got my PhD from Sri Chitra. So we always used to show this device because Sri Chitra was actually the first institute in India who basically developed an artificial heart valve actually. This was quite successful. It was actually implanted in more than I don't know exactly the total number. I'm pretty sure it is implanted in more than 1 or 2 lakhs of patients. It was quite successful actually. So this was actually a classical example where how a biomaterial is developed here. So we could see from the screen itself, it's a combination of an alloy, a polymer, and a sewing ring. So obviously this takes up a lot of years of effort actually to probably develop a biomaterial and to commercialize this biomaterial into market, in fact. So now I'm basically with this introduction, basically what I try to connect is actually what is a biomaterial and then why biomaterial developments are important in fact. But the most important thing to understand after a biomaterial is actually engineered or developed, the first and foremost thing is actually when it is coming in contact with the biological fluids, its surface properties has a very strong impact on its immune response and subsequent cascade of immune responses and biocompatibility. So this is the main reason why researchers believe the surface properties of the biomaterials are so critical or it plays a very important role. More specifically, protein adsorption is the initial cascade of the event that always happen on the biomaterial surface immediately after implanting within the body actually. So this probably highlights the requirements of modifying the surface properties of the biomaterials. Because once the biomaterial is implanted in the body, protein adsorption happens, and then subsequently cells like neutrophils and macrophages actually infiltrates around the biomaterials, and then that generates a cascades of immune response. So this makes it highly challenging and highly relevant to probably tailor the surface properties of the biomaterial in such a way that we will be able to get an appropriate immunological response. So the biomaterials won't be rejected by the body. At the same time, the biomaterial will be able to perform its intended function actually. So this probably makes it very important to come up with new surface modification techniques or methodologies which can actually tailor the surface properties of the biomaterial so that its safety and efficacy can be further enhanced. So now coming to the main core of actually today's talk is actually definitely it is plasma surface modification, and more specifically how come plasma can actually improve or modify the properties of the biomaterial so that it will be more useful for different biomedical applications. So I know we have a lot of small friends over here, so I would like to give a very brief fundamental introduction. So as we all of know, actually there are different states of matter ranging from solid, liquid, gas, and plasma is actually obviously the fourth state of matter. depending upon the force of attraction only, we basically classify matter. And as we all know, actually, solids have a very strong intermolecular force of attraction, which basically becomes more weakened when it is actually transitioned to a liquid and a gas state. So obviously, these three states of matter will be much more familiar, actually. But plasma is actually an ionized stream of gas. That means that when you take a gas and then excite the gas and then ionize the gas, and ionization is actually the process by which an electron will be removed from the most loosely bounded electron will be removed from the outermost shell of an atom. So as a result of that, ions and electrons will be actually produced. So this highly energized ionized state of gas is actually known as plasma. And obviously there's a lot of, and if you look at universe, most of the universe matter is actually composed of the state of plasma only. And I have to obviously mention about this great scientist, actually. So it was Erwin Langmuir. He was actually the first person who coined this term of plasma, actually, way back, probably around a century before, around in 1928. He basically described plasma as a region containing balanced charge of ions and electrons. And in 1932, obviously, Langmuir got a Nobel Prize, actually. So it was Langmuir's report regarding plasma that has actually basically laid the foundation of plasma, and that has actually in fact motivated researchers across the globe actually to investigate more on plasma, and then more specifically, how can plasma be used to modify the surface properties of different materials such as polymers, metals, ceramics, and even composite materials. And so obviously, as I mentioned before, this is the fourth state of matter, and then you ionize a gas and then remove mostly loosely bounded electrons from an atom. The net result is actually you're basically creating a complex mixture of ions, electrons. So that means we basically say it as a neutral medium of containing unbound positive and negative particles. Now the next question: how do you create plasma? Obviously, there are two ways, actually. You have to either heat a gas at extremely high temperature so that the gaseous state can be converted into plasma state, or you can apply a very strong electromagnetic field. So that can also create ionization. So these are actually the two ways by which you could actually create plasma. And when you look at nature, as I mentioned before, one of the most abundant state of matter is actually indeed plasma. And if you look at some of the examples, actually, if you see solar corona, solar cold, internal confinement fusion, solar wind, neon signs, aura, flame. So like that, there are a lot of different examples of plasma that exist in nature. But if you pay attention towards the y-axis, you could see the temperature range of plasma is extremely, extremely high. So the big question here, if the temperature of the plasma is extremely high, how you can use such a high temperature to modify the surface of a delicate, gentle biomaterial? Obviously, your goal is actually to modify the surface properties of the biomaterial, not to destroy it, actually. So that could be one of the questions that may be coming in our mind, because the temperature of the plasma is most of the time very high. So this also brings a lot of questions. Early in the 1960s or 70s itself, how can we generate plasma at a lower temperature in a lab setup? Because with that only we'll be able to use plasma to modify biomaterials. Otherwise, if it generates a high temperature, there is no means by which we'll be able to use plasma as a method to modify the surface properties of materials. So classical definition, around in 1970s and 1960s and 70s, a lot of research happened in terms of understanding more about plasma. Plasma is a very complex mixture, as I said before that. So usually the end result or the main components of a plasma is actually an electron and an ion, actually. So usually in most of the time in high temperature plasma, the temperature of the electron and the ion is extremely high. And as a result of that, we call them as thermal equilibrium plasma. Equilibrium in the sense the temperature of the electron and the ion is the same. And as a result of that, the plasma is in high temperature state. That means it's a high temperature plasma. But further research, has revealed that there is another type of plasma also, which is called non-equilibrium or non-thermal plasma. In that case, the electron and the ion temperature has a very significant difference, actually. The electron temperature has an extremely high, but the ion temperature will be extremely low. So this makes the plasma into a low temperature, or researchers call that as touchy plasma. In the sense, you could actually clearly see with the tip of a finger the plasma is actually falling on the finger, and that means it's not damaging the skin. So meaning that is actually an example of a non-thermal equilibrium plasma, or a plasma that can be created in lab at a very low temperature. So with this invention only, researchers were able to extend the utility of plasma to modify the surface of biomaterials. And most of the time, biomaterials are either made up of polymers, metals, or ceramics. And some metals obviously are resistant to temperature, but most of the time polymers are indeed not. They are not resistant to high temperature, in fact. But with the invention, or with the way of actually low temperature plasma, researchers were able to utilize this form of plasma to modify the properties of biomaterials. And this is actually an example which I basically want to show. This is actually an experimental way. That means in a lab setup, this is a plasma chamber. And of course, it looks a little bit similar to a microwave, chamber and everything. But if you look at that, this is the glass chamber of plasma. And this glow, what we are seeing is actually the plasma glow. There are different parameters which can be used to control the generation of the plasma. Say, for example, when you increase the electromagnetic radiation's power, the plasma glow's intensity was going up. And the other important factor is actually when you vary different gases, as I said before, it's ionization of the gas. Different gases can be ionized. In this case, you can see argon versus oxygen. Drastically, there is a color difference is there actually. So this is due to the fact that when it is ionized, there's an optical emission that is actually happening. And each gas has a unique or characteristic emission wavelength actually. As a result of that, by looking at the color of the plasma also, we will be able to probably say which is actually the composition of the plasma. So this is just to probably know there's a lot of ways by which we could actually tweak the plasma's, like generation of the plasma. And it is very important because when you modify biomaterials, you have to probably make sure that you are not destroying the surface of the biomaterial, but at the same time, you are able to generate a desirable response. So the optimization of the plasma parameters are very important. And I would like to play this short video because this will probably give or reinforce the key concept why or how plasma treatment is actually improving the surface energy or the surface hydrophilicity. So what you are seeing there is actually the atoms that are in the bulk form within the material. And the surface atoms, as we know, they have unbalanced force of interactions because of the fact that they are on the top layer. Actually, this gives to surface energy inside. Now you could see what happens when we drop a liquid on the surface. It basically beats it. So okay, so the last video, it was actually an interactive video, which basically what it shows is actually how the surface energy of a material is changing. And it was actually showing with the example of polymers, in fact. And as I said before, polymers are actually one of the most important classes of biomaterials, in fact. So usually after irradiations with plasma treatment, the surface energy gets really high. And as a result of that, actually, the hydrophobic or water repellent surfaces become very hydrophilic actually. And there's a lot of research that is already documented that hydrophilic surfaces are better for biological compatibility and cell response actually. And this was one of the four reasons why plasma is actually utilized very widely to improve the surface properties of biomaterials actually. So those were actually some little theory regarding like what is plasma. I hope I was able to convey what is plasma, and then why we need plasma treatment, and then which way plasma treatment is actually going to impact the properties of the biomaterial. Now, to my young friends, I would like to show, two research projects, in fact. So two research projects which I was actually able to participate actually where I have attempted to use plasma to modify the surface properties of biomaterial. So in the first project, what particularly we have done is actually most of the time when you look at some medical tools and implants, usually there's a lot of unwanted substance sticking like blood or bacteria. So infection is actually one of the important challenge as far as many medical devices are actually concerned. For example, PTFE, and it's actually a plastic known as Teflon. So PTFE is already non-stick. It's actually, we all know it's actually a non-stick material, but still, even with that non-stick nature itself also, sometimes actually, bacterial adhesion and colonization can still happen on the surface of the PTFE, in fact. So it will be really great if we can have a surface that can effectively repel water and harmful substances actually. So that was actually one of the challenge, in fact, to probably develop or make a PTFE based surface that will be highly repellent to water. And that's the reason why we call that as super hydrophobic actually. So hydrophobic is already water repellent surface. Super hydrophobic means the water repellency, it reaches a threshold and we call that as a contact angle value. When the contact angle value is exceeding 150, that means that will be highly repellent to water actually. So meaning if we can probably generate a PTFE surface which is extremely water repellent, then it will be able to resist the deposition of unwanted substances in medical device like blood or bacteria actually. So this was actually the need behind this particular research actually. And now the next point is actually, obviously we use plasma. Plasma, in the sense, as I mentioned before, is a post of matter. There's a lot of different type of gases can be ionized in order to modify the surface properties. So in this case, the objective was actually to improve the hydrophobicity, or in other words, make it highly water repellent actually. So in order to do that, the main thing, the main rationale behind doing this was actually to use a hydrophobic material actually, or a monomer, because in chemistry we say polymerization, where we take a monomer and then polymerize, right, to form a polymer chain. So due to this rationale, we have actually selected a monomer called methyl methacrylate, and usually the CH3 groups of MMA is highly hydrophobic actually. So due to this reason only, we selected MMA and then generated a plasma with MMA, and then that plasma was irradiated on the surface of PTFE. And what we expected is actually after the plasma treatment, this extremely hydrophobic plasma treatment will improve or increase the hydrophobicity of PTFE and make the PTFE from hydrophobic to super hydrophobic. So this is what was actually happening. So the virgin PTFE means the native PTFE without any plasma treatment. And this is actually the MMA. MMA is, as I said before, methyl methacrylate actually. So the pentan methyl groups are extremely hydrophobic. So after the plasma modification, obviously what happens is actually, you could really see this is the water droplets on the surface of PTFE. So the water droplets was actually beading way more on the plasma treated samples. So this basically shows that the PTFE is actually becoming hydrophobic. And I have, so this is actually the contact angle value that I mentioned. As I mentioned before, when the contact angle, that's actually wetting angle of the water with the solid. So obviously when it exceeds the threshold value of 150, we call that as hydrophobic, super hydrophobic. So obviously we could see here the hydrophobicity value was above 150, qualifying that, making that qualify under super hydrophobic. Now, one important thing, nature itself, we have super hydrophobic surfaces. One of the best example is lotus leaf. If you look at lotus leaf, if you put some water, the droplets will bead up perfectly actually. And scientists were very intrigued to see what was the reason behind this super hydrophobicity actually. And when they were actually paying close attention on the surface features of the lotus leaf, they have found out that there was nano level protrusions or nano roughness actually. So this nano roughness or nano structuring was actually responsible for imparting high hydrophobic feature. So even in the plasma treated sample also, when we took SEM or electron microscopy imaging, we could see this is the control PTFE at high magnification without any plasma treatment. And this is the PTFE with plasma treatment. And you could see, obviously, there was some sort of nano structuring that was actually going on in the surface. So meaning what the conclusion was actually, in addition to the methyl groups, the plasma treatment was also imparting some sort of nano roughness on the surface of this material. And I have a video probably to play to show the difference between the control PTFE versus so this is the control PTFE surface. You could see here on the control surface, this dye labeled water is staying, versus here you could see the water droplets are actually rippling off very fast. The main reason is actually this is the plasma treated one, this is the non-plasma treated one. So meaning, of course, after the plasma treatment, the surface become extremely hydrophobic, and we call this as super hydrophobic. Now, what is the big picture, or what is the like the benefit of this particular approach is actually, first and foremost, PTFE, polytetrafluoroethylene, is actually a very widely used biomaterial used as a vascular graft and many other implant material. So meaning this can make the tools, medical tools, more cleaner. It can, that means on just similar to water droplets, even bacteria's adhesion can be also prevented actually, and even blood clots can be also prevented if we can make the PTFE into highly hydrophobic or super hydrophobic actually. So this is so maybe like a self-cleaning surface actually. So it has a lot of future possibilities like catheters, artificial organs, and bone dressings actually. So this is one of the simplest examples where how can plasma is actually improving the surface properties of a material so that it could extend its utility for different types of biomedical applications. So that was a very small project actually, but now this was actually one of a very thorough, a very important research project. Again, we have used plasma, but on a different context actually. So here, of course, metallic nanoparticles such as gold and silver is quite known for exerting its antibacterial impacts, and also it is known to impact bone regeneration potential and everything. But however, the toxicity of the nanoparticles are sometimes a big concern, because most of the time metallic nanoparticles are produced by using chemicals with toxicity concerns and everything. So this probably limits the way by which you could actually modify implants or biomaterials with nanoparticle actually, because there are obviously some toxicity concerns. There are multiple steps one needs to probably perform in order to modify such materials in fact. So from this challenge, from this particular challenge only, this research arises. Can we use plasma so that we can use a safer and eco-friendly method by which nanoparticles can be produced and stably anchored on the surface of different materials, in fact. And from that, we have actually devised a new reduction method, which is called plasma electrolysis reduction. That means in this case, as we all know, reduction is actually the addition of hydrogen actually. So most of the time, reducing agents are conventionally used for this purpose. So in the plasma phase, what we did is actually we use hydrogen gas and when we generated hydrogen plasma, and then with the help of that, we have actually tried to anchor gold and silver nanoparticle on the surface of different material surface and evaluated its biological response in fact. So the whole idea, what we have tried here in this research is actually, can we use a safe hydrogen plasma methodology to safely anchor or immobilize nanoparticle on the surface of materials. So this was actually the way by which we do this actually. We take the substrate and we could see, we use different type of substrates such as a surgical face mask and then a 3D printed scaffolds. 3D printed scaffolds are actually polymer materials that are custom made as per a computer aided design actually. And then a very simple filter paper. So what we are doing, we will be first dip coating or soaking this substrate inside a metallic ion solution. And then after that, we subject this, after the soaking process is complete, we take this and then irradiate with plasma treatment. And due to the plasma treatment, what happens is actually nanoparticles are actually forming in situ on the surface of these substrates actually. And this image is actually a little bit showing what is happening here. So we could really see this is actually one of the single fiber of a face mask. And this is the control face mask, and this is the face mask with nanoparticle. What you're seeing here, this is a zone of inhibition assay. This is actually an assay that shows the tests the antimicrobial potential of materials. So this is called zone of inhibition. So meaning whatever area that you're seeing around this material is actually the zone where the bacteria cannot attach and grow. So obviously it was very clear the plasma modified silver nanoparticle attached face mask sample was way efficient in preventing bacterial colonization or attachment actually. So this was a very interesting finding, and you could really see this is actually the different fibers of a face mask, obviously the normal face mask which we all used to do. And this work was actually inspired during COVID-19 time only, around 2020, 2021. That time only we were really doing this work, and you could really see this is actually the one single fiber of a face mask, and this is actually the face mask fiber with nanostructuring using this plasma process. And this is the 3D images, and you could really see nanoparticles were clustering on the surface of this face mask actually. So this was face mask, and this was actually the 3D scaffold. And we used a honeycomb shaped 3D scaffold because honeycomb is actually, the honeybees actually used to reside on honeycombs actually. Honeycombs also have a relevance in tissue regeneration, because if you look at our own biological tissues like bone, it natively has a honeycombing into that. So that was the main reason why we probably 3D printed honeycomb based scaffolds. And then in this case also we deposited two different type of nanoparticle, the gold and the silver. And you could really see the gold and silver was actually stably colonizing or stably attaching on the surface of these materials, in fact. And this is actually the coloration of the material, after the modification, in fact. And for this particular work, we have done one more thing actually, because testing these biomaterials for biological evaluations are very challenging, in fact. Say if we make a very large scale material, and then if you want to really do for testing for biological studies, you have to probably cut the sample or make it very smaller, which was probably very challenging. So from that, what we basically did is actually for the biological sample, we printed samples with extremely small size. Usually for biological testing, we have to use small well plates actually. And there's a specific well plate called 96 well plate, which is actually one of the very conventional well plates which are used for cell viability and other important biological screening, in fact. So in order to better facilitate the biological testing, what we did is actually we exactly measured the diameter of a 96 well plate and then 3D printed material polymer exactly fitting into that size, and then applied plasma modification. And you could see this pink coloration was evident of the gold nanoparticle formation, and this slight yellowish color was actually showing the scaffold with silver nanoparticle after plasma. This was a control one actually. So by using this makes it very convenient to test the biological evaluation. And obviously, when we did biological evaluation, the cells almost died completely. That when we did it actually, after modifying with the plasma modification, especially these, what you are seeing here is actually the different concentration of the silver deposited on the surface of the PLA. And when we did a viability, cell viability means we basically quantify what is the percentage of live or viable cells. Unfortunately, in most of these concentration, you could see the absorbance of the viability was very low, indicative with the fact that this nanoparticle, that means immediately after the plasma modification, if you take and then do the biological assay, this was actually exerting toxicity to the cells actually. So this again, since it posed a very big research question to us actually. So what should we do actually? Obviously, plasma is showing efficacy in terms of modifying with nanoparticle, but the big concern is actually it is creating toxicity actually. So this made us think what is going on. And later on, we realized actually the nanoparticles are leaching out. When you put the scaffold modified with nanoparticle inside the biological fluid, it's basically leaching out the nanoparticle into the surrounding and creating toxicity. So in order to address this, what we did, instead of directly putting them for the biological studies, we took these samples and then do a gentle sonication wash so that we will be able to dislodge all the unstably anchored silver nanoparticle after the plasma modification from its surface, and then only stay. That's the reason why this second panel was actually showing after the sonication process, and you could see the coloration was actually going significantly down, and only stable nanoparticles were actually able to stick on this one. And you could really see after the sonication thing, the viability was regained. So this is also another example where in research, you will find a lot of challenges actually. So you have to probably troubleshoot the challenges and then think about what could be the reason behind this particular process and then optimize it, in fact. And the same scaffold, when we were imaging using an electron microscope, we were really seeing these are the different concentrations actually. So you could see at higher concentration, the nanoparticles formation was not uniform. Rather, it was highly clustered, agglomerated formation of nanoparticles was there. But once you reduce the concentrations from 250 millimolar to the lowest concentration, which is 3.1, you could really see distinct individual and stably anchored nanoparticle actually, compared to this clustered or agglomerated. And this is the main reason why the viability was less for this highest concentration. But whereas for the lowest concentration, the viability for the cells were really nice. So this was a very challenging piece of research for us actually, because we already believe that plasma can actually modify the nanoparticle. But despite with the fact that we still encountered a lot of difficulties in terms of getting an appropriate biological response, but we were able to probably optimize that via using a sonication wash method. And we were also able to identify one particular concentration, which was actually not toxic to cells. And at the same time, that was able to, and that concentration was 3.1 millimolar silver nanoparticle concentration, where we could see very stably anchored independent silver nanoparticle, where we didn't observe any toxicity. And on the same concentration, if you look at that, we have tested antimicrobial testing also with 2 different type of bacterial strains. So this concentration was actually, so this is actually the bacterial colony formation assays, and you could really see the bacterial colonizations was actually prevented in the case of the silver nanoparticle modified material. And this is actually with the 3D scaffold, and this is actually with the surgical face mask samples actually. So this was actually another example where we employed plasma, especially in this case, actually it was silver nanoparticle modification was actually utilized to probably find out what is the optimal concentration of the nanoparticle, where the cell viability is retained, but at the same time, the nanoparticle will be able to exert antibacterial potential, in fact. And these are some additional images which I'm basically showing you. So this is actually, you can see this was a 3D scaffold, and this was under the plasma chamber modification. And after the modification itself, you could really see the color of the 3D scaffold was changing. These are some transmission electron microscopy images of both silver and gold nanoparticles that were actually formed from the plasma treatment. And this is very interesting, because the earlier slides I was showing about silver nanoparticles. Similar to silver, the plasma can also deposit gold actually. So we did a time trial, and you could see this is one single strand. So if you look at the 3D scaffold, this is one single strand of a scaffold where we did some time optimization, like 1 minute plasma treatment, 3 and 5. This is gold coating. So with the 3 minutes, it was actually giving a very uniform coating compared to 1 minute where it was minimal coating, and 5 minutes the coating was not uniform. But at 3 minutes you could see the coating was very smooth, a very uniform coating. So this is actually a very good example of where plasma can be actually utilized to improve the surface properties. And the same surface, you could see this is a control PLA without any gold nanoparticle. This is actually the PLA with gold nanoparticle, and what you're seeing is actually the actin filaments or the cytoskeletal filaments of the cells were actually stained. And then you could really see the the deposition of the cells were actually very uniform throughout on the surface of gold nanoparticle modified 3D scaffold in comparison with the 3D PLA control. And I have a small video to play. So this is actually a video which shows actually how the big difference between, this is the control PLA without any nanoparticle. This is the plasma modified polylactic acid. And whatever you're seeing here is actually the cells, meaning the cells are completely covering or very uniformly covering. So it was the same spot or same point on both the samples. So we want to probably make sure we are comparing apples with apples, in the sense we basically selected PLA from the same central region and selected the same polymer with plasma modification on the same region, and was basically comparing how the cell attachment is actually behaving. So this is a very classical example where it shows how plasma modification can in turn impact the attachments of the cells actually. So the next big question, obviously, as researchers or scientists, the big question will be, we always want to know what exactly is going on, right? Because already in the last slide, we have seen the cells were actually were growing much uniformly on the surface of plasma modified samples compared to non-modified or untreated sample. And what we did is actually, this is actually an insert, cell culture well insert, where we take, this is a control insert, and this is the insert where we applied plasma treatment with gold plasma. And you could see here, whatever you're seeing here is actually gold nanoparticle. It's extremely small. This is a biological TEM. This is a section of MG63, which is an osteosarcoma cell line. And you could see this is the control cells. And in this one, whatever you're seeing here, these small dots are actually the gold nanoparticle. And it's a biological TEM. And you could see the gold nanoparticles are indeed, the cells are actually basically attaching or anchoring on the surface of this gold nanoparticle, meaning the nanoparticles are actually acting as anchoring point for the cells to attach and then grow actually. So this basically provided the mechanistic insight behind. So meaning the plasma treatment was able to very stably anchor nanoparticles on the surface of the substrate. And this was the reason behind why cells were able to successfully anchor and then spread and grow way better in comparison with a surface without plasma treatment actually. Again, this reiterates the importance of plasma and how and why plasma treatments are actually a very important way by which we can actually modulate, cellular response or biological response, in fact. So again, why this is useful? The main reason, of course, nanoparticle production is not new. I mean, obviously for last 20 to 30 years, production of nanoparticle, especially gold and silver, is ongoing. I mean, researchers across the globe is working. But with plasma, this becomes it more greener, eco-friendly, in the sense you are using hydrogen plasma or a toxic reducing agent like lithium, aluminum hydride, or borohydride or anything like that. So meaning you're making this eco-friendly, no toxic chemicals are used. It is very versatile, meaning you can apply this in different materials like face masks, 3D scaffolds, implants, different one. And most other important thing, in one step, you can actually anchor nanoparticle on the surface of any any biomaterial, in fact. And when you apply silver nanoparticle via plasma treatment, it provides antibacterial properties, which is very important because as far as biomaterials are concerned, the antibacterial property will confer infection resistant potential. And with the gold nanoparticle, the bone cells were basically attaching way better on the surface of actually these 3D scaffold, which probably provides osteogenic response actually. So there's a lot of impact which this type of research can actually bring in fact. So to my young friends, as I said before, actually, this is actually in the context of plasma, but in general, you could always think about the research problem, and then you can think it in different innovative ways by which you could actually address a question and then come up with probably a good hypothesis, and then design your experiments in such a way that you will be able to test or validate your hypothesis, in fact. And obviously, of course, I am not a single-handed person. Obviously, if I say all the research I've done myself, that's wrong, actually. I mean, I also always have to thank actually my former mentors, collaborators, and even my present lab members, actually, because without their help, in fact, none of the research will not be possible because research is not like a one-man show. Obviously, all of us, obviously it needs a lot of help, a lot of teamwork, a lot of collaboration. So obviously, I would like to thank my present group members actually, and also my past mentor, Dr. Vineeth Thomas, past members at UAB. I need to probably thank each and every one of them actually, to probably helping, in terms of, doing such research. And I also like to thank Alabama State University. And then this is a beautiful picture of our downtown. It's actually very historic in downtown Montgomery. So I would say with this, I would like to conclude, this particular talk actually, but I'll be very happy to interact with the students, specifically that will be something that I would be really interested in. Right? So thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Vineeth. It is indeed, I would say, very deep, vast, and I hope the students get a real flavor of how we do research. And now over to Rajagiri Seashore School. We are happy to take any questions that you may have. Please note you are muted. Yeah.
So is there any other usage of super hydrophobic surfaces outside the medical field other than scaffolds or face masks?
Very nice question, actually. Obviously, yes, because the super hydrophobic surfaces are like self-cleaning surfaces, right? So meaning, if you look at the roofs and everything, so basically the ceilings and roofs, most of the time, I think people will appreciate self-cleaning surface rather than actually, because if it is really water attractive surfaces, there is always a way by which it gets contaminated or, so the cleaning will become more challenging. But just imagine if you have a roof surface or a surface which will undergo a self-cleaning process, actually, it's very convenient, right? So yeah, it's a very good question. So that means not only in the biological scenario, but in a real context, actually, there's a lot of utility for super hydrophobic surface.
I think we will have one or two more questions. Yeah.
What's the connection between 3D printing and making medical materials such as bone scaffolds or skin tissue?
Nice. Good question. Very good question. So 3D printing is actually basically it uses a computer aided design, So when you look at the scaffolds, see, for example, a patient has a bone defect, right? So a bone defect is something that won't be the same. So if you take up two patients, patient A and patient B, just imagine both of them have fractures. What is the guarantee that the fracture size and the fracture dimension will be the same? It will be different, right? So if you look at the fracture size and dimensions, to make tailor-made, implants or scaffolds, it's not easy. So most of the time, if you have a mold and then if you are basically casting it and then making it, changing the mold is very difficult, right? Because the mold will already have and size and shape and everything, right? With the dimension and everything. But if you have 3D printing, you can always go to your design software. There's a lot of design softwares like SolidWorks, Tinkercad, Entopology. There's a lot of advanced design softwares, and many of them are actually free softwares also. So you could always go and then you can do a scanning of the patient, right? And then based on that, you'll understand this is actually the dimension of the defect. And then based on that, you can actually transfer that data into a computer, and using a design software, you can actually design exactly in that dimensions of the patient defect and then 3D print it in lab and then implant it back. So that means it's highly customizable or tailorable compared to a conventional way of using a mold where from patient to patient, you won't be able to make it tailor-made actually. So that is the main reason why researchers across the globe are actually using 3D printing over all the other conventional methods in fact.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So we have a question from YouTube, and the question is regarding what is a nanoparticle. So
nice question, actually. So nanoparticle are extremely smaller particle, and the dimension is actually defined by 10 to the power minus 9 meters, actually. So which is extremely small particle. They have very unique features, high surface area to volume ratio. They have very high reactivity. Say, for example, I was talking about gold, right? So usually the metallic gold in the bulk form is yellow color, right? And it has actually some unique characteristics, which we can see with our naked eye. The same gold, when we make it smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller down into the dimensions of 10 to the power minus 9 meter, it enters into the nano level. And at that nanoscale level, we couldn't see that with naked eye. The properties of the gold becomes extremely different. The surface coverage, the surface area of the gold atoms becomes extremely high. We say that as high surface area to volume ratio. Usually gold is a very good catalyst material. So when it becomes nano, its catalytic activity, its reactivity, everything goes significantly high. So meaning a nanomaterial, you need a very small quantity compared to a bulk material actually. So there's a lot of ways by which we can say, but with size only conventionally we used to define nanoparticles actually.
So yet another question is it possible to develop degradable plastic using plasma?
Not really. The main reason plasma is actually a modification technique, as I've said before. It basically has the capacity to modify up to 5 nanometer. When you talked about degradation is a bulk property. It is not a surface property. So degradation depends upon the molecular weight of a polymer, right? So when you look at the polymer, the chain length of the polymer, molecular weight of the polymer basically dictates or controls the degradation rate, in fact. So plasma is not a technology where we could actually control or modify the molecular weight of the polymer. So I would really say if you really want to control the degradation, the best strategy is actually to modulate its mechanical, its molecular weight actually. That will be the best strategy.
So you have mentioned about thermal equilibrium and non-thermal equilibrium plasma. Yes. So there's a question regarding what is the difference between them?
Sure. As I said before, plasma's net result is actually ions and electrons, right? So basically you ionize and then you generated electrons and ion. Usually electrons and ions will be having temperature range. If they are same, that means if the electron temperature, there will be an extremely high temperature in Kelvin. If the electron temperature and the ion temperature is the same, we call that as thermal equilibrium. That means usually electron temperature will be extremely high. So meaning the ion or the atoms will be also having the similar high temperature. Imagine solar core, the sun crust. If you think about the solar core, the sun temperature in the solar core, it will be extremely high. So that is actually an example of a non-equilibrium plasma. But whereas the touchy plasma, what I mentioned was non-equilibrium, where the electron temperature is extremely high, but the ion or the atom's temperature will be extremely low. So most of the time, the ion temperature will be in the room temperature range, but the electron temperature will be in the very high Kelvin range actually. So that is called non-thermal equilibrium, or we also call that as low temperature plasma or non-thermal plasma, which is in fact the plasma that is used to modify biomaterials.
So since we have questions
Yeah,
and
I'll be
presentations
happy.
from students as well, we'll go for one final question from
Sure.
YouTube. That is, one is regarding PTFE. Can you please explain PTFE? And the question is, can we use 3D scaffold of nanoparticle for CVD?
CVD means, you mean chemical vapor deposition?
I am not sure.
No,
Maybe
and I was just trying to make sure that I read the question. So first we'll come to the first question actually. First question is actually PTFE. PTFE is polytetrafluoroethylene, which is actually, we call that as Teflon. That's a very generic name actually. In the biomaterial field, PTFE is actually one of the most known vascular graft material, artificial blood vessel substitute actually. So usually PTFE is highly inert actually, because it has carbon-fluorine linkages actually. So as a result of that, it's highly inert. And this makes PTFE one of the most widely used biomaterial as a vascular graft actually. But even PTFE is non-sticky, because for example, the non-stick frying pans, what we are all using in kitchen, has a PTFE coating actually. And that is the result why it's called non-sticky actually. Even though it is non-sticky, but sometimes it can still get bacterial colonization and attachment. In order to prevent that only, we were actually use plasma to make the hydrophobic PTFE into super hydrophobic PTFE. Now, coming back to the second question, ma'am, would you mind repeating that question?
That is 3D scaffold. Can we use 3D scaffold of nanoparticles for CVD? And CVD is cardiovascular diseases.
Oh, cardiovascular disease. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now I got it, because there's another definition of CVD also. Okay, so let me tell you one thing. 3D printing, most of the time there are different type of 3D printing technique. FDM is called fused deposition modeling, and there is a stereolithographic technique. Unfortunately, nanoparticle cannot be 3D printed, but rather what we could do is actually, we could reinforce nanoparticle inside a polymer like a thermoplastic, and then that can be extruded and then 3D printed into desired shape actually. As a result of that, you will get nanoparticle reinforced 3D scaffold. For example, in my laboratory currently, we are 3D printing hydroxyapatite nanocrystal reinforced hydrogels actually. So basically we first mix alginate, sodium alginate with hydroxyapatite nanoparticle, and then using a 3D bioprinter, we mix cells also along with that and then 3D print. So as a result of that, you will still have the impact of the nanoparticle. So nanoparticle alone cannot be 3D printed, but rather nanoparticle is actually a very good additive to improve the printing resolution and other characteristics of the 3D printed scale.
Thank you, Vineeth, for your patience with our questions. And still there are more questions coming in. We'll keep you posted with those questions.
Sure.
And Alfonso, please go ahead with the session.
Thank you, Dr. Vineeth Vijayan, for sharing your valuable insights. To express our appreciation, I invite Ms. Andrea Bernard to felicitate our guest speaker, Dr. Vineeth Vijayan.
Good morning to everyone. It is with immense pride and gratitude that I take this opportunity to felicitate our esteemed guest speaker, Dr. Vineeth Vijayan. Dr. Vineeth's talk today on plasma power, how we use the fourth state of matter to make the biomaterials better, was nothing short of extraordinary. His ability to simplify the complex science of biomaterials was truly enlightening. Through his innovative research on plasma-modified biomaterials, Dr. Vineeth has shown how the fourth state of matter can be revolutionized the field of tissue engineering, enhancing biomaterials to make them safer, more efficient, and more compatible with human bodies. On behalf of Rajagiri Seashore CMI School, GYRA, and all of us here, I express our heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Vineeth for sharing his knowledge and passion with us. Your academic achievements and groundbreaking contributions to science serve as a guiding light for inspiring researchers and educators across the globe. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Andrea, for this kind gesture. As a token of gratitude, we would now like to present a memento to our guest speaker, Dr. Vineeth Vijayan. We request Mrs. Elizabeth Matthew, our principal, to kindly present the memento.
Once again, our heartfelt gratitude goes to the guest speaker, Dr. Vineeth Vijayan, and I request Dr. Vineeth Vijayan to kindly accept this certificate as a token of our love and gratitude.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Much appreciated that. Thank you.
The virtual symposium is being streamed on the official YouTube channel. Participants are encouraged to post their questions in the comment section, and our technical team will relay to them to the speakers. Don't forget to subscribe to the GYRA YouTube channel for research-focused videos and events. This virtual platform bridges the USA and India, so occasional technical glitches may occur. If they do, please stay with us. We will reconnect via the same link within 3 to 5 minutes. I invite Mr. Jitin, coach, to introduce the GYRA unit of Government High School, Odapalam, Wayanad.
Good morning all. Greetings from Government High School, Odapalam, Wayanad. The GYRA unit of Government High School, Odapalam was established 2 years ago under the expert guidance of Dr. Felicitating. Our focus is on addressing social challenges faced by marginalized indigenous communities in Wayanad, our home district. In line with this mission, we have chosen a socially significant topic, that is the socio-economic impact of participatory tourism among the Kartanaika tribes of Wayanad. The study is ongoing and they are going to present their findings of their pilot study. We would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Finosh, Ranjita ma'am, Joe sir, Risha ma'am, and Lawrence Sunny sir for their invaluable support and mentorship throughout this journey. Our GYRA unit consists of 10 dedicated students: Fatima, Nila, Nia, Jones, Jerin, Fibin, Safa, and Ra. They conduct their studies with guidance from our 3 committed science teachers, Mrs. Shijina, Mrs. Diva, and Mrs. Anisha. Through this research, we hope to ignite positive changes in the lives of the indigenous people of Wayanad, fostering both awareness and practical solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jitin sir. I now invite the GYRA unit of Government High School, Odapalam, Wayanad for their presentation.
The topic of our presentation is the socio-economic impacts of participatory tourism among the Kartanaiki tribes of Kuru Island. This project has been conducted by our GYRA team from Government High School, Odapalam, Wayanad, Kerala, India. Wayanad is located in the Western Ghats, has an altitude ranging 700 to 2,100 meters, and the temperature between 10 to 25 degrees Celsius. It's known for its rich biodiversity, making it an attractive tourist destination. Participatory tourism. Participatory tourism involves the active engagement of local communities in the tourism activities. It ensures that the people living near the tourist spots and benefited directly from the tourism-related activities. Island. Is a 950-acre protected river delta consisting of 3 densely wooded and inhabited islands. It lies in the tributaries of Kaveri River and is managed by the PSL, Vana Samrakshana Samiti. Tribes such as Alias, Kuralis, Kurmas, Panias, and Katanaikas live near this island. Katanaika tribes. Katanaika tribes are the true inhabitants of the forest. They have their own lifestyle and culture. Most of them have very poor living conditions. Their socio-economic status is very poor compared to the other tribes. Hypothesis. Katanaika tribes who are engaged in participatory tourism in Kurwa Island have improved socially, economically, and educationally. Goals for detailed study. Explore the socio-economic impact of participatory tourism from the Katanaika tribes of Kurwa Island. Analyze the changes needed to create a new model in participatory tourism for the betterment of tribes. Determine effective ways to implement participatory tourism and develop new strategies for Katanaika tribes to harness the potential of Kurwa Island. We adopted several approaches to our study, including flipping to Kurwa Island, containing events together, and coordinated activity of police process. Strengths and challenges. Let's discuss the strengths and challenges of our study. Since Kurwa Island is situated in our district, it is easy to access. Also, we get cooperation from the local people who can understand and speak our languages, even though they have their own languages. However, we face challenges such as difficulty in visiting tribal hamlets in some remote forest regions due to lack of transport facilities. Another difficulty is the shyness of some tribes to interacting with us. Alternative strategy. To address these challenges, we made frequent visiting to build a relation with the tribe, sought support of forest officers to enforce area. Primary data. The primary data we collected shows that the tribes are engaged in various tourism jobs, such as tourist guides, security guards, rafting guides, lifeguards, and cleaning staff. They use their local knowledge and skills to benefit tourism and conserve nature. Of the 40 employees in Kurwa Island, 30 are from tribal communities. 137 families are benefited and 255 people are benefited by the tourism activities of Kurwa Island. Among them, 92 families are tribal families. Benefit to tribes. Participatory tourism has brought numerous benefits to the tribes, including enhanced communication skills, better housing, active pursuit of higher education, no school dropouts, improved health and hygiene practices, and financially sound families. We can witness a distinct progress in socio-economic status of Katanaika tribes who are engaged in participatory tourism in Kurwa Island. Expected outcome. We expect to understand both the positive and negative socio-economic impact of participatory tourism. We aim to identify measures to amplify positive impact and mitigate any negative ones. Our study identified several positive impacts of participatory tourism among the Katanaika tribes with no negative impact on so far. Data collection is ongoing, and we need to establish strong relation with tribes to continue our research. And we hope that by the end of our studies, we will be able to give suggestions to government and other authorities for making new policies and projects for improving the socio-economic status of all tribal communities in Kerala. These are our references. Thank you for your attention. We are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, GYRA team Odapalam, for the insightful presentation. So one question, meanwhile, when we collect the questions, one question that triggered my mind was interacting with the tribal people. did you find any challenges in the way either you have to learn new language or a new way of interacting with them?
Great question, actually. Yeah. They actually speak in Malayalam as well. So it was not that much of a problem to interact with them. But one thing we faced is shyness. I mean, so that was the only problem that affected us.
Thank you for the response, team. Dr. Vineeth, we will be happy to take any questions from you.
In fact, it was a very nice presentation actually, and I've been personally there at Pro Island, which you mentioned. Actually, it's a very interesting topic of actually selection. So let me ask you actually. So out of this particular research, will you be able to probably like come up with any sort of recommendations which can probably further improve the tourism opportunities?
So after we dig more into this topic, we think that we might be able to recommend.
Thank you, team. Rajagiri Seashore team, do you have any questions for the current presentation?
No, ma'am.
Okay, Alfonso, then maybe we will go to the rest of the session. Thank you, team Odapalam.
Thank you for that insightful presentation. Moving forward, I invite our coach, Ms. Helen Sandra, to introduce the unit of RSCS GYRA with us.
Good morning, everyone. The essence of research lies in seeing what everyone else has seen, but thinking what no one else has thought. This thought perfectly encapsulates the vibrant research attitude nurtured at Rajagiri Seashore CMI School. It's a privilege to introduce our research units, which have been diligently working under Global Young Researchers Academy. At the heart of these initiatives are our advisor, Dr. Manjula Devanand, and our dedicated teachers who have tirelessly supported and inspired our students to think critically and innovate boldly. I would also like to acknowledge Dr. Felicitating, who helped us form these GYRA units from the initial stage onwards. We are proud to announce that two of our research units got the opportunity to present their projects here. It is important to note that their work is still in its early stages. Unit 1 is doing research on the topic Approaches to Address Sleepiness Among Teenagers in Classrooms. This study aims to explore the factors contributing to drowsiness during school hours, including sleep schedules, classroom environments, and seeking practical solutions to enhance focus and energy levels. Unit members are T.S. Afan, Ajay Saji, and Adil bin Falak. Now I welcome Unit 1 to do their presentation. Over to Unit 1.
Thank you, Helen, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. Now, feeling sleepy in class is an issue that all students face. This is an issue that is not talked about enough. Studies have shown that almost 60% of students feel sleepy during their classes. Now, this leads to the students not being engaged in their classes. Now, this may be because of inattentive lectures, or the class may not be that engaging. Now, another factor that may be a huge role is overall atmosphere can also have an effect on the students. Now, for instance, when we enter a kindergarten classroom or any of the lower classes, we find out that the class is very colorful and vibrant, while if we move towards the higher classes, we find the atmosphere more dull. Now, another thing is that the motivation also plays a key role in this, as several institutions decrease sleepiness by increasing motivation. That is by giving a motivational speech or a quiz at the start of the class. We also feel sleepy when we sit still for an extended period of time. Now, this may be because of the decrease in energy levels. Now, we have found out the factors which may be the reason for affecting sleepiness. Now, the first one being mental health conditions such as depression, anxiety. Now, these have an adverse effect on the students, as these may be a cause for their sleepiness, as even though these were not that common in the olden times, these have been on the rise lately. And medications that students take also may have side effects causing drowsiness. Insufficient sleep the night before also plays a key role. The design of classrooms, that is the lighting and the weather outside, especially if it is raining, can have an effect and make the students feel sleepy.
Research plan. So we have planned a research, and the first step in our research plan is to find the cause of sleepiness during class time, which we have achieved and Afan has just explained. And after finding all the factors, we are going to conduct a survey in all of our classrooms in our school. And after conducting the survey and finding the results, we'll be plotting a frequency chart where we'll be finding out in which all classrooms at which all periods or time period the sleepiness seen more often. And we'll be finding other reasons. So the reasons that we have initially found could not be the factors. There might be even more. So we'll be trying to finding out those factors. And at the end, we'll be listing out these factors and find a practical solution to this issue. Discussion. Sleepiness can affect students' efficiency in learning, making them less attentive during class time. And we have listed out several factors contributing to sleepiness in students. The first one being the mental health conditions of students. So our current generation is facing this issue. They have a lot of mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, and sometimes it could be the side effects of the medications that they take, like I mentioned. The second one is that studying late at night. So students, they have a lot to study and they have other workloads like extracurricular activities from their school. So they might not find time for their studies and they only find it during midnights or late times. And then the next one is using gadgets before sleep at night. So for gadgets, we're talking about for instance, our mobile phones. So the screens of these mobile phones sends out blue light rays, which cause disturbance in a circadian rhythm and also is also a reason for cause of sleepiness in students. And the next one is passive classroom atmosphere. What this meant is the lectures, for instance, when you talk about lectures, it's mostly the lecturer talking to the students in a monotonous voice, and the classroom, the lecture might not be interesting, and the brain of students feel idle and may feel like bored, and they won't listen to the lectures and they would feel sleepy at the end. So for instance, I could just speak like as if I'm reading from a book and in a monotonous voice, but if I modulate my voice, highlighting important points in what I'm saying, then they're more interested in listening. And if I'm communicating to students like a questionnaire seminar, like a questionnaire session, then it'll be more interesting to listen to. And insufficient rest. Now, adolescence or teenage time is a really crucial period of our life, and we should take good care of it. But often we don't get enough rest time, which is important. So for an average teenager, it is about 8 to 10 hours, but we often get only sleep resting time for like 5 to 3 hours, which is not insufficient.
So this is our sample questionnaire for students. From this, we hope to find out the subject that causes the most student sleepiness in class. And if the teaching methods, classroom looks for classroom timing affects the students to fall asleep in class? This is our sample questionnaire for teachers, which we made to get the teacher's perspective of the issue. From this, we tend to find out the number of students that feel sleepy during class, the subject that causes the most student sleepiness in class, the teaching methods that causes the most student sleepiness in class, and if the classroom atmosphere makes students sleepy in class as well. Aims and objectives. Our main aim is to make practical solutions to decrease drowsiness. What we mean by practical solutions is that solutions that can be implemented in real life situations. Next, we plan to first implement our solutions in our school first, and then if there are any flaws, improve them and then later implement them in other schools. As time changes, we will also be updating our study. Next, we want to make changes and innovations inside the classroom. And we know that for the past 50 years, there has not been much changes and innovations inside the classroom. These changes may be something like changing the colors of the walls or changing class timing, like reducing the class timings to 30 minutes. Conclusion. From our research, we have concluded that the regular sleep routine can cause students to feel sleepy in class, which leads to them being distracted and inattentive during class. Continuous classes without any breaks between them leads to drowsiness in class, and as sitting still for an extended period of time causes sleepiness. The duration of each period should be closer in time to the attention span of the average teenager, that is 30 minutes. Why is it so low, if you may ask? It is due to kids watching too much short form videos. And for the last month, our class timings has reduced to 30 minutes. And the number of students feeling sleepy has reduced drastically, which proves our point. Just to note that this is still an ongoing study with the survey yet to be conducted. These are our references. We thank you all who helped us along the way. We are open for questions now.
Thank you. Thank you for the very thought-provoking presentation. So while I would say Dr. Vineeth prepares for his question, we have one question from YouTube. Does school should encourage napping after long recess?
I believe schools should not encourage napping after long, as we come to school to study, not to nap. So the napping time should be like not a part of school, maybe like during the transportation or after reaching home, that should be given as an important time period. But in school, I believe that is not the correct thing to do.
Thank you for the question.
Over to you, Dr. Vineeth.
It was a very good topic actually, because as a teacher, obviously we not only teenagers actually, I'm just letting you know, it's a very, very good topic actually. But definitely this is not limited to teenagers actually, even at college level also, even after, even at PhD level also actually, it is actually a problem. Because, as you guys have actually noticed, there's a lot of reason, even the usage of actually mobile phones and gadgets actually, that is another one potential reason. I have a question like, do you consider impact of physical activities like doing exercises actually, and also the diet, those kind of things, in that impact? Say, for example, I don't know whether I'm accurately right, but most of the time this drowsiness is very high after a very heavy lunch. Afternoon classes actually, this is more predominant compared to a morning class actually. So do you guys think about that aspect actually, like what should be a kind of a, I mean, of course, it's very hard actually to make sure that everyone will have the same sort of diet, but some sort of a uniform diet, and also at the same time involving students with some sort of physical activities, in between class hours or like PT hours or something like that. I don't know, just a thought.
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful question. And now it is definitely true that afternoon classes makes the students more sleepy. Now, one of the potential solutions that we have thought of is by incorporating more physical activities like a simple stretching or something like that, or getting out of the classroom or changing the classroom atmosphere just for the afternoon may decrease sleepiness. So that is what all of the solutions that we have found.
Great.
Thank you. Any others have a question to our team who have presented here? Team Odapalam.
That was a great presentation and a great topic as well. So my question is that you said that weather affects sleepiness in class. So what kind of weather affects sleepiness in class? For the winter time, summer?
Thank you. That's a really nice question. By weather, it's most of the time it's cold. For me personally, a cold climate, it kind of makes me feel sleepy, and yeah, and especially when it's raining, you tend to feel more drowsy or sleepy. So yeah, thank you for the question.
Thank you, team. Thank you for your presentation. Now, Alfonso, please go ahead with the next session.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you for that insightful presentation. Now I would like to invite our coach, Ms. Helen Sandra, for introducing RSCS GYRA Unit 2 for us.
Next, let's invite Unit 2, which has embarked on a significant study titled Impact of Poor Sanitation on Health and Environment in Coastal Areas. This research aims to shed light on how inadequate sanitation facilities affect both human well-being and the surrounding ecosystem, particularly in vulnerable coastal regions like ours. Unit members of this project are Alfonsaria, Marianessa, Akshara Vinu, Gauri, and Fissa. Now I invite Unit 2 for the presentation. Over to Unit 2.
A warm good morning to everyone. Our problem statement is impact of poor sanitation on health and environment in coastal areas. Myself, Alfonso Ria, and today's presentation will be presented by myself and Maria. In coastal areas, poor sanitation is a prevalent problem that has detrimental impacts on both the environment and human health. These places have unique challenges because of their proximity to the water body, including increased danger of water contamination, the transmission of disease carried by water, and the degradation of marine ecosystems. Therefore, it is crucial to address these issues. Poor sanitation in coastal areas give rise to a variety of health issues. Ineffective waste management allows garbage to accumulate, creating breeding grounds for bacteria and attracting pests, which can transmit diseases. Accumulated waste attracts flies and rats, which can spread pathogens to food and water sources, increasing the risk of infections. Inadequate treatment of wastewater allows harmful microbes to remain in water supplies, potentially leading to waterborne diseases when the contaminated water is used for drinking or irrigation.
Water pollution refers to introduction of harmful substances into water bodies, which can significantly harm ecosystems, wildlife, and human health. It leads to deterioration of marine ecosystems by disrupting aquatic habitats and reducing biodiversity. The degradation of water quality occurs as pollutants such as chemicals, plastics, and sewage degrade water, making it unsafe for both human and wildlife. This contamination affects the food web by introducing toxic substances that can accumulate in organisms, causing harm to predators and affecting the entire ecosystem. Furthermore, water flow is often affected as pollution can lead to blockages or altered currents, impacting the natural movement of water and the organisms that rely on it. These are the key strategies for improving sanitation. Promoting clean water practices involves educating communities about the importance of water conservation, proper disposal of waste, and reducing pollutants to protect water sources. Raising awareness helps people to understand the link between clean water and health. Implementing strong waste management systems ensures that the waste is properly disposed of, preventing contamination of water sources. Effective composting practices reduce waste, enrich soil, and help to avoid other contamination by limiting harmful runoff. Eradicate open-defecation is essential for preventing the spread of waterborne diseases, ensuring that human waste does not contaminate other water supplies, and promoting public health. Together, these efforts help to maintain safe and clean water for all.
These are the three aims of our research. Determine the severity of sanitation problems in coastal regions. It assesses the extent and nature of sanitation issues, such as waste disposal, water quality, and sewage management in coastal areas, to understand the scale of the problem affecting these regions. Examine health issues linked to inadequate sanitation. It investigates the types of health challenges residents face due to poor sanitation, such as increased cases of waterborne diseases, respiratory infection, and skin conditions. To identify the health risks posed by lack of sanitation. Identify environmental impacts of poor sanitation. It explores how poor sanitation practices affect coastal environments, including pollution of waterways, destruction of marine habitats, and harm to biodiversity, to highlight the broader ecological consequences. These are our research questions. What are the existing sanitation challenges in coastal areas? This question seeks to identify specific issues related to sanitation in coastal regions, such as waste disposal, sewage management, and access to clean water, to understand the barriers to maintaining sanitary conditions. How is the health of the people who live in coastal areas affected by poor sanitation? This question examines the health effects that residents experience due to inadequate sanitation, including the prevalence of illnesses like gastrointestinal infections and respiratory problems caused by polluted water and waste exposure. What is the impact of poor sanitation on the environment? This question investigates how poor sanitation practices harm coastal ecosystems, including water pollution, habitat degradation, and loss of marine biodiversity, to assess the ecological consequences of sanitation issues.
This is the methodology or the research plan of our research. The first step was to find a researchable question, that is, a type 3 question, after which we framed our problem statement. Then we referred to a bunch of research papers related to our topic, from which we gathered numerous facts. Now, our approach is to conduct a survey using the questionnaire that we have prepared, then to compile the data in order to reach a conclusion or a solution. These are survey questions. We have divided it into 3 themes. First theme, health. It highlights the serious impacts of poor sanitation on both physical and mental well-being. Inadequate sanitation can lead to waterborne diseases, especially for children who are more vulnerable to infections. It also causes stress and anxiety due to constant health problems. Poor sanitation creates breeding grounds for disease-carrying insects like mosquitoes and flies, which spread diseases such as malaria and dengue. Theme 2, impact on environment. This focuses on how poor sanitation practices harm the environment. Polluted water bodies, often due to improper waste management, and open defecation can severely affect water quality and harm aquatic life. These practices can lead to soil contamination, affecting the plant life in agriculture. Poor sanitation also disrupts local ecosystems, causing a decline in biodiversity by harming habitats, polluting water sources, and introducing harmful chemicals and pathogens that affect both wildlife and plant species. Theme 3, Awareness and knowledge. Here, the focus is on understanding the importance of sanitation and challenges in improving it. The awareness of health risks associated with poor sanitation is crucial for taking preventive measures. Knowledge of sanitation solutions, such as improved waste disposal and clean water systems, can help to address this issue.
As a conclusion, coastal and waterfront communities are faced with a wide range of problems caused by their location and environment. The absence of sanitation facilities has implications on the health of the people and a negative impact on the environment. A solution can be made by assessing the difficulties faced by these communities.
These are our references. These are our acknowledgements. We are thankful to everyone who helped us relentlessly to work this ongoing journey. Thank you. Now we are open for question and answer session.
Thank you, team, for such an insightful, socio-impactful question and presentation, giving us space to think about it. So, Dr. Vineeth, to you.
First, actually, it's a very nice topic of selection, actually, because it's very relevant. So I have a specific question, like what will be the sample population where you will be providing these surveys? Because you have actually listed few surveys, right? So like how many number of people, so like, you are basically planning to take surveys from the coastal area?
Actually, thank you for the question. That was a wonderful question. So we are planning to conduct a survey among a few coastal residents, and we will assess the data to reach to a solution. But we have not decided the actual number because this is an ongoing project.
Sure. So you are basically planning to go to one coastal area or more than one coastal areas actually? Did you decide on that part?
At a single place, we are planning to conduct a survey among the coastal communities around us. So we will be conducting a survey in more than one coastal area so that we will get more data.
Great. Thank you. Great.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the response as well. Now we have one question from the YouTube. What chemicals can pollute water?
Thank you for the question. Water can be polluted by several factors like plastics, and also sewage can also degrade the water quality, and this can have a decline in the sanitation of water.
Thank you. Team Odapalam, please feel free to ask any questions you may have. Thank you. So from my part, I have one question on behalf of everyone. So when you say there is a sanitation problem as such, what led you, like apart from the news that you have read, how have you observed it around you regarding the sanitation problems?
Thank you for the question, ma'am. So near our school, there are various coastal communities as well as coastal areas. So we noticed that there is a lack of sanitation in these areas, and there are a lot of health issues as well as environmental threats due to this. And open defecation was also a matter.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. I was about to ask for an example, and thank you so much for the presentation. And please go ahead with the upcoming sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, GYRA scholars, for the presentations and to the audience for the engaging questions. I would like to invite Dr. Manjula Devanand for a special announcement on behalf of GYRA. Over to you.
One of GYRA's hallmark initiatives is the International Research Conference for Children, IRCC, which provides young scholars with a platform to engage directly with scientists across diverse fields. This conference facilitates knowledge exchange and allows students to showcase their curiosity and passion for exploration. I am proud and humbled to announce IRCC 2025. IRCC 2025 will be held from 13th to 15th June 2025 at Mewar Kesri Bhavan, Banat West, Mumbai. And it will be hosted by the Vidyadhiraja School, Mumbai. So once again, stay tuned. We'll see you all at IRCC 2025. I also take this opportunity to announce the next GYRA Virtual Symposium. This will be hosted by Guardian Angel School, Ernakulam, Kerala, between 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on 24th of January 2025. Our special guest or keynote speaker for that event will be Dr. Sharvari Deshpande. She's a research fellow at Harvard Medical School, USA. She will be enlightening us about a journey from parents to children, exploring how parental lifestyle shape the next generation. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next at the GYRA Virtual Symposium on 24th January 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Manjula Devanand, for the special announcement on behalf of GYRA. As we come to the end of this enriching symposium, it's time to express our gratitude to everyone who made this event possible. I invite Affan TS from Class 9 to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Alfonso. A very good morning to one and all present here. It's my honor to extend the vote of thanks on behalf of Rajagiri Seashore CMI School and the Global Young Researchers Academy, GYRA, to all who contributed to making this virtual symposium a resounding success. First and foremost, I would like to express a heartfelt gratitude to our dedicated GYRA team who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to make this event possible. We owe you a deep debt of gratitude. Your planning and coordination ensured the seamless execution of today's symposium. Special mention to GYRA America region, GYRA India region officials, and GYRA IT team headed by Ms. Devi. The GYRA evaluation team headed by Dr. Felicitations gave significant suggestions to polish the presentation. We are indeed privileged to our guest speaker, Dr. Vineeth Vijayan, for taking the time to be with us today and for his enlightening words that have truly inspired us. Thank you, sir, for your valuable insights and encouragement. Our heartfelt gratitude to our advisor and chair, Dr. Manjula Devanand. We are immensely grateful to our school management, Reverend Father Margis Manikanapalbi CMI, Assistant Director, Reverend Father James Serenite CMI, and our Principal, Mrs. Elizabeth Matthew, for their constant encouragement and presence. Thank you to the GYRA scholars and coaches of GHS Odapalam Wayanad for their guest presentation. I would also like to thank Ms. Andrea Bernard, our coach and co-chair for the event, for her guidance and support throughout this event. A big thank you goes to Ms. Helen Sandra, our coach, for introducing us to the RSCS GYRA unit, sharing its goals and highlighting the exciting work it aims to achieve. Next, I would like to thank our technical assistants behind the screen, Reverend Father Dr. Paul Muriat CMI, Ms. Adira Paulin, Ms. Nimisa Subhash, Ms. Nikita KK, and finally, Ms. Anija Vincent, who have been helping us with the technical side throughout this event. And I would also like to thank our parents for their immense support in helping us fulfill our dreams. To all the GYRA scholars of our school, thank you for your tireless efforts. Your hard work and creativity have made us proud. And we look forward to seeing what you will accomplish in the future. Finally, our audience, esteemed guests, teachers, and students, thank you for your participation and enthusiasm for making this virtual symposium a memorable one. Your presence and engagement have made this event a success. Thank you once again, everyone, and I wish you all a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you, Affan, for those heartfelt words. Research is seeing what everybody else has seen and thinking what nobody else has thought. With this, we conclude the virtual symposium organized by GYRA and hosted by Rajagiri Seashore CMI School. A sincere thank you to all the dignitaries, teachers, students, and guests who joined us today. We hope today's event has inspired each one of you. Thank you and have a wonderful day ahead. Think like a scientist. May GYRA inspire and nurture countless future young scientists. Thank you all.